Are Ferrari thinking of abandoning the 2023 F1 season after just 2 races? And not only that, are they even going as far as abandoning their bathtub sidepod concept that they've run for the last 2 seasons? These are the rumours that the Italian press have begun circulating online throughout this week, and it's what we're going to be discussing in this very video. But before we discuss this, it is time to run a competition that I've been saying for the past couple of weeks. And it's going to be running from now until the end of the Australian Grand Prix weekend, where 3 lucky subscribers of the channel will be given teamwear from their favourite Formula 1 team. The terms and conditions for this competition will be at the end of this video, so be sure to keep watching until the end to enter. After 2 very lackluster opening rounds of the Formula 1 2023 season, it is quite understandable for there to be a lot of talk and discussion among the Italian press when it comes to the Scuderia Ferrari team and its SF-23 challenger. This comes after 2 very lackluster opening rounds of the 2023 Formula 1 season at Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, where in Saudi Arabia in particular being an absolute disaster because the car was even slower than that of its predecessor throughout the weekend, which is kind of unheard of, to be quite frank. So of course there's going to be a lot of anger amongst the team members at its current performance and of course amongst its drivers. And this is where the speculation stems from. So this was reported on Motorsport Italy, and it stated in this article that they've already resigned to the fact they will have to just challenge for 2nd place in the 2023 Formula 1 season. And with that comes the idea behind a complete overhaul and design philosophy of the bathtub sidepods that Ferrari have been renowned for over the past couple of seasons, as there was a lot of hope put on this being a kind of a magic bullet when it was first unveiled to the public. Now this of course hasn't come to fruition, and it's seen the dominance of Red Bull emerge in the meantime, with that having no end in sight. So you can understand why they've kind of come to that conclusion if this report is indeed true. Not only has the Red Bull emerged to be absolutely dominant in race trim, but of course with Ferrari having these kind of correlation issues, and of course there's a major deficit in race pace to the likes of Red Bull and Mercedes and Aston Martin, it is understandable for this. Now I think it's the kind of doubling up of having not just 1 issue but 2 issues of Red Bull's dominance and of course of their own internal struggles to get a good setup for their car for a race trim, which is why they've begun to kind of already think about writing off the 2023 season. Now my question here is, and what I want to discuss is, do I think that's an actual feasible thing that is happening currently at Maranello, and kind of the reasons behind why it could or couldn't be. Now me personally, reading between the lines, I think it is far too early to be talking about writing off the season just after 2 races, albeit with them being very disappointing ones. You have to look at things on the bright side of life. That's my motto. So number 1, they have an extremely quick qualifying car, which they can get within a 10th of the Red Bulls, as we've seen over the Grand Prix weekends in Saudi Arabia and in Bahrain. So they have a quick car on their hands. It's just a matter of finding the right window in terms of setup to have a quicker race car, because obviously you cannot have a quick qualifying car and then not have a quick actual race car. It just doesn't happen in Formula 1. The only time that's kind of happened that I can remember would be the early part of the 2012 season with Mercedes' W03, where it was quite quick in qualifying, but it absolutely chewed its tyres up in the races. So do I think this article has a valid point to make when it comes to the Scuderia team already abandoning the season? Yes and no. Yes, I can understand why they could be already thinking about it, because of course we have the addition of the cost cap. And are they going to have enough, revenue and resources to be able to close that gap that they seemingly have? That's what they have to think about now. Because if they do not believe they can with this current sidepod philosophy and design that they have, they're better off kind of writing off the season in the sense of not bringing that many upgrades to the car that they haven't already kind of given the green light on, and focus more on seeing what they can do with a Red Bull design, which is kind of the second point of this article, isn't it? The article states that they're now going to abandon their innovative bathtub style solution when it comes to their sidepod treatment and go down the more, if you want to call it, orthodox or conventional Red Bull route, because a lot of teams have now followed suit. And what this reminds me of is very much like drawing the short straw out of the lot. And I think this is how you have to look at these, designs that we see across the grid. We have the Red Bull design, we have the Mercedes SIDEPOD, and we have the Ferrari bathtub. Now, obviously, when you have a new set of regulations, you don't necessarily know which of these three designs are going to have the widest window when it comes to development and how much longer you can push it to extract further development and lap time gains and, additional points of downforce and so on and so forth. And for me, it's quite understandable and clear to see. Of the three designs, Mercedes pulled the short straw. That is absolutely clear. But what I will say about the Mercedes when it comes to them having pulled the short straw, I think it's more a case of they had the potential to pull the longer straw, but at some point in time, that straw, if you want to say, kind of got soggy and bent. And then it fell off the cliff and they cannot extract any more performance, even though it is kind of there, but it's unobtainable. Whereas Red Bull pulled the long straw and they have much more development to go on its car. And that, I believe, is where Ferrari are at. They're kind of in the middle of those two. They're in the middle of the short straw and long straw, and they've maybe come to the end of it. And so they've had to kind of reevaluate what they do with the remainder of their budget for this season, and of course, what they're going to do for 2024. And I think this is where they are at currently. Even though we are so early on in the season, I think you do have to start already thinking of next season and whether your actual design that you've chosen is the right one to go down. Because I think, like Mercedes, you have to look at what Aston Martin have done. They have made a massive leap forward with using parts of the Red Bull design and Alpine design, but they've taken it a step further and even more extreme, if we're being totally honest, than that of the Red Bull, and it's given them a massive leap up the grid. And I think these are the couple of elements at play here that Ferrari are having to kind of have a juggle around internally and decide what they're going to be doing. So yes, the answer I think is they are definitely having to think about that already, and that is what I believe they are doing. Okay, so details for the competition. What you're going to be doing is, in the very description of this video you're currently watching, there's going to be a link to the giveaway. And then from there, you're going to see there are 3 different ways in which you can gain points. And then, of course, once you've done all 3 of those, you'll have the maximum available points. And then when we get to the end of the Australian Grand Prix weekend, I will then choose 3 winners, who I will then get into contact with the email that they have provided in the giveaway. And that's all you have to do for the competition. So good luck. Right guys, that is the video. I hope you've all enjoyed it. If you have, leave a like, share it, and of course subscribe if you're new around here. Alright, I'll catch you all in another Formula 1 video very soon.